Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of Travis Talks Tech, where we're going to crack open the tech world's most intriguing insights and opinions, served fresh by a medley of tech savants from across the spectrum. I'm Travis Harrell, your navigator on this journey. With a tech career spanning about a quarter century, my adventures have taken me from the nitty-gritty of software development and database wizardry to the grand scheming of enterprise architecture. More recently, I had the thrill of mingling with the brightest minds of technology startups and their venture capital maestros while exploring the frontier of emerging technologies. All fascinating stuff, and today, we've got a fascinating individual. On our first episode, we're joined by the one and only Andrew Amaro, the mastermind and chief guardian at Klavan Security. With a backstory that reads a bit like a spy novel, Andrew brings over a decade of intelligence gathering prowess from the Canadian intelligence services. His approach? Think of it a bit like a Swiss Army knife. You'll have to find out. Buckle up for a conversation that promises to be as enlightening as it is entertaining.
My name's Andrew Amaro, and I'm based out of Ottawa, Ontario, which is in Canada. And I'm a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces. I was with the Canadian Intelligence Service for about 10 and a half years, and recently have branched out on my own, doing a physical and cybersecurity company, which is bringing or converging the two areas together. I'm finding a lot of the organizations out there really focus on one aspect and a single aspect of cybersecurity or security in general. And I want to bring those worlds together from an perspective or a red teamer's perspective. And I think that's really the way to address the uniqueness of each client, the different constraints that each client has, potentially budgetary constraints or specific threats. So looking at it from an attacker's perspective, which is really looking for any gap or any hole that we can go into and get in through, we look at all aspects, be it your physical, your cyber world, your social time, anything that you do on your spare time. All of that is up for grabs, really. So that's really the intent of Klavan, and that's where I'm at now.
That's what's really most fascinating about what you're up to me, versus just every other cybersecurity practitioner out there. They seem to specialize in finding tools. A lot of them do. You know, it's like here's a new tool that came out that can do endpoint security or whatever. But you seem to have a more holistic look on that. And we actually met for folks on this call, we met a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, while we were
exactly, yeah,
traveling to another country. And I don't even know if you could disclose which country since you're so secure. But I would love to hear, how you prepare for a trip like that. And if you can disclose the country, feel free to. But I would love to understand, some of the things you talked about while we were there were fascinating to me regarding physical security and cyber. But yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you plan for something like that and how you might advise clients even on that sort of thing.
The travel. Yeah. So that was early last year. So a year ago or so, we went to Tel Aviv, Israel. It's a great place. We had some great times. I think we did some street scootering in between some buses and stuff. I think that was a great time.
Yes, I think somebody set up the account for the scooters for you because of your high security methodology.
So remind me to bring that up. Some of the pain points of my approach, I guess, they can be tweaked for my next trip. That's for sure. So some of the ways that I prepared to go on this trip. So first of all, it is a different country that I've never been to, considering that I was working with the Canadian government before. I wanted to keep in mind that potentially my name would be on someone's list. Again, not trying to be, sound like I'm super important, but you never know. So I wanted to take that approach. That's a potential risk that I would be on someone's list. And someone's list could mean that as simple as getting extra search that will arrive. It could mean that there's maybe someone looking through my things at the hotel. Whoever picks me up in a cab, whoever sits beside me in the airport, could be listening on things I do. So that overall idea of just being aware as to where you're going, what you're using, where you're keeping your things, all of that was kind of put on my plate, and I wanted to make sure that I approached it in the safest and most functional manner. So I tried to apply a few different methods that I learned. One of the biggest things was to shed as much information that I did not need when I was traveling over there. So I wanted to go with the most minimal information that I needed. I needed maybe access to an email address. I needed access to a couple of chats, and that was about it. So what I did was I bought a burner phone. I bought a SIM card when I arrived. There's Wi-Fi everywhere, so I was able to use that phone to book a taxi, get everything I wanted out of get a couple of pieces of information off the email address that I created. Again, off of, obviously it wasn't my actual email address, it was a temporary one. Yeah, so there's a bit of like that social media, online services stuff that had to be set up, plus the hardware that had to be set up. I did bring a laptop with me because I thought I'd be doing potentially some work over there. Again, I brought a laptop that had a native OS on it, like a Windows OS that was pretty clean, gave me access to whatever I wanted. But then I also brought a USB key that had, a non-persistent OS, like a Tails or something like that. So the non-persistent OS is something that you plug in through the USB. You launch your laptop into that from that USB key versus the disk on your computer, and then you can do the OS shows up and it gives you access to the internet and all of that stuff, but nothing is actually saved on the memory. So that kind of stops anyone from finding anything that you're doing potentially on the laptop. Again, I was thinking if I'm going through customs and going through the border and stuff, that would be the things that they would typically do. They'd grab my phone, grab my laptop, do a forensic scan, and so on. Now, a couple of caveats there. If you're going to do something like that, you'd probably be a little bit more cautious to actually use the laptop and use the phone a little bit more, create a bit more of an actual bit more information on there to make it look like it's actually your phone and your devices versus throwaway devices that you're trying to, toss at them just for them to waste some time on you and not find anything.
Because then, I guess they could be extra suspicious of this burner identity, exactly. Right? And I don't know what they could do about that, but seems suspect.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, with the social media stuff too, if you don't, let's say, soak them in or have them populated with enough information, they also would get suspicious. So they might ask you for your online presence, right? So that's not uncommon for them to ask you for what's your online presence, what are your handles, what are your accounts online. So a lot of the times I do advise clients, if they are traveling through borders and things like that, to put their social media accounts, the real ones, if they don't want to have secondary ones, to put them in private mode, which means that whoever's going to be looking for them, let's say someone at the airport, won't be able to see much. Wow. They'll be able to see that it exists, but it's there. The other thing to keep in mind too, all that information that they get from you, they're going to be used later, and they'll be adding it to their algorithm so that they can do, constant checking on that account and gathering information. So they'll be scraping your account for things that are interesting. So if you're in that country, and I always advise, don't post anything while you're on the trip. More because people back home might want to break into your house, know that you're not home. But the other reason too is that if you're doing anything wrong or anything suspicious or anything that you might not want to share, you're doing it while you're in the country at the exact time, and they're monitoring you while you're there. That would give them a reason to come get you potentially, right?
Wow.
So don't do anything while you're out. There's countless stories. Not my favorite, but one that popped up the most was a ransomware kingpin, young guy from Russia. He was on the run, and he was really good with his OPSEC, except his girlfriend wasn't. So she posted a picture of them, very nice, very romantic picture of them kissing at a fountain. And, within a day he was caught. And
which I'm okay with.
Sure. I mean, yes.
Go
criminals
ahead
are
and get
bad.
the
Yes.
ransomware kingpins, man. Just
Yes.
just keep us
Keep us safe.
innocent worker bees who can't afford a dedicated office to let us go.
That's right. While they're working in their Lamborghinis and stuff, right?
Yes. Well, that's pretty fascinating. I mean, so are these services then that you would offer? Do you have packages like this, or is this just something that would be completely bespoke when you're talking to clients about their travel? Do they come to you with these types of questions?
Yeah, some do. Most of them that most of the clients that come to me have had something happen to them, or are part of our old work where they're aware of the risks and threats. So it's a lot of the times when individuals are traveling, they typically think of the risks in the sense of pickpocketing, being mugged, or something like that. So to me, when you're actually traveling and you're an executive or someone that has a lot of information, someone that works with the government, a lot of that information is actually a little bit more valuable than anything you have on your person. So this type of information could be easily taken off of your computer, like a complete imaging of your computer within minutes. Same thing with your phone. Contacts, conversations that you've had before, sensitive information, all of that is up for grabs. And things that would take usual law enforcement, a year or more to do through an investigation, they literally now have access to your laptop and your devices right there, and you can't say anything about it. I mean, you can say something about it. Now I say, it's up to you. You can argue as much as you want, but your number one goal should be to get through borders as fast as you can, and as painless as possible. You don't want to raise a stink. You have all the rights in the world when you're at home. When you're in someone else's territory, doesn't matter what country it is, you're at their mercy. So so when you're bringing all of that stuff, and when I was bringing all of that, I have all kinds of contacts on my phone, personal, business ones, and so on. If I was going to be putting those at risk, I'd also be putting my clients at risk. If I have information on my laptop, I didn't want to put that at risk either. I want to make sure my clients are protected. So that's really the biggest thing, is that when clients go over there, anywhere actually, or where they're actually going through, let's say, like roadblocks or like road checks, that type of thing, checkpoints. Those are really interesting too, because they almost have like zero rules. I also say things like bring some bribing currency. It could be really nice, it could be really nice sunglasses. It could be some, a small lot of cash. Bring something so that you can exchange, because a lot of those times that's really what those checkpoints are looking for. But they could be more sophisticated and be able to actually take your laptop. And this brings up the other thing is like, are you able to survive without that information or access to that information? Do you have your stuff backed up in a cloud somewhere, right? If my phone got confiscated, would I have means to get a new one? Sure. So at the same store I bought the SIM card, I'm sure I would have been able to pick up the phone. I wouldn't have lost any information. I would have been able to log into all of the accounts that I had. But in a way too, is if you need access to some information, but you don't want to put it to the mercy of the airport security and all that, you can put it into the cloud, into, let's say, Dropbox, and then access it when you're in a safe zone after the borders and after the checkpoints.